Hello, thanks for joining us on your channel of choice at this time, Africa Independent Television AIT. Welcome to Focus Nigeria, your program that puts the searchlight on topical issues in the polity. My name is Benga Aruleba. The National Assembly came alive on Tuesday, and as expected, the legislators have keyed quickly into some of the topical issues shaping the polity. One of such is the implementation of the 2017 federal budget. Senators said yesterday that they are not impressed with the implementation so far because just a little over 300 billion naira has been released for capital expenditure so far out of a budget estimate of over 1 trillion naira, representing just about 30% performance. The senators, who immediately on resumption of plenary went into an executive session for almost 3 hours, also spoke on the state of the nation, some of the issues they will focus on immediately. Now let's take a listen to the Senate spokesman, Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, who is after yesterday's executive session.
The Senate have resolved as follows: that the unity of Nigeria is non-negotiable, and we are fully committed to the territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, our dear country. 2, that the Senate will seek all possible avenues to make sure that peace is restored in all parts of Nigeria. 3, the Senate hereby advise very strongly that all groups seeking to pursue any agitation should do so through the constitutional means. The other motion that we took very critically has to do with the issue of the 2017 budget. Worried with the state of implementation, the Senate actually looked at the state of implementation, and we are definitely worried with this.
All right, that's the Senate spokesman summarizing what happened in the executive session they had. And to the side attractions in the Senate, embattled Senator Dino Melaye successfully evaded officials of INEC who stormed the Senate yesterday in company of court bailiffs to effect service of court summons on him as directed by Justice Nnamdi Dingba about 2 weeks ago. Now, as I said when the judge made that order about 2 weeks ago, let it not be seen that the court is gradually being manipulated to prolong a process that would have ended by now if only Senator Dino Melaye, the Ajekunya senator, had, true to his boastings, allowed the process to test his popularity, since he said he's popular. But as we are now seeing, the senator wants to eat omelette, yet he doesn't want to break an egg. That's what we are seeing. Now, yesterday, the court bailiff, in a typical David and Goliath battle, made fruitless bids to serve the senator who had obviously perfected his escape bid, but he failed.
Sorry.
Distinguished, sir. I'm court official.
So you will talk to us.
Where is the person that came to serve you?
Come now.
See,
So what exactly happened? Were you successful?
leave me alone, please.
That I, Senator Dino Melaye, is not evading the service of any purported petition on me by INEC. As a matter of fact, my lawyer, Chief Mike Ozakome, SAN, served on INEC a notice to produce the said petition In the course of the hearing of this matter, INEC failed, refused, and neglected to produce the said petition in court. That in my view of the lapse of time, I shall no longer be in a haste to take any further step in this matter, so as not to be seen to have aided any party, especially the Independent National Electoral Commission, in its continued blatant breach of the provisions of the Constitution which I have sworn to uphold.
If you ask me, definitely not the way to go, because the sheriffs and civil process law makes provision on how to handle a party who becomes invasive and refuses to accept court papers. And I don't think it lies in the mouth of the senator to be the one to determine whether the time has lapsed or not, unless the court says so. And this one from the House of Representatives, and it's really, really a sad one, sad in the sense that this act is being perpetrated by a leadership that has enjoyed so much support from every one of us. That the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Yakubu Dogara, a lawyer of many years, a lawmaker, and Deputy Chairman of the National Assembly, the lawmaking arm of government, can be linked to this act of lawlessness, leaves a very sour taste in the mouth. Now, here's the story. On June 23 this year, that's over 3 months ago, the Supreme Court sacked Honorable Herman Hembe, the man who had represented Vandekia Koshisha Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives since 2007, after holding that he was not validly nominated as the candidate of the APC for the election in 2015. Now, instead, the Supreme Court held that one Mrs. Dorothy Mato was the validly nominated candidate, and so INEC should issue her a certificate of return to enable her to take her seat immediately. Having heard that Herman Hembe got to the seat illegally and had resorted to technicalities to frustrate the hearing and determination of the case instituted by Mrs. Mato, which forced the Supreme Court to even assume the role of the court of first instance in the first place. The Supreme Court ordered Herman Hembe to pay back within 90 days every kobo he had collected as salaries and allowances for 2 years. Now, that order, as I said, was made on June 23 by no less a judge, no less a jurist of the Supreme Court than the Chief Justice of Nigeria himself, Justice Walter Onogen, who delivered the judgment of the panel of 5 justices. Now, I had recounted here severally how the leadership of the House since June has frustrated Dorothy Mato and refused to admit her into the chambers on the strength that Herman Hembe is still in court and all of that. Now, last week, Hembe and his lawyer, Paul Erokoro, a respected senior advocate of Nigeria, were back in the same Supreme Court with a request that the Supreme Court should do what? Should overrule itself, because in their belief, that the Supreme Court justices erred, that includes the TJ in any case, that they erred in assuming jurisdiction over the case. Now, they asked that court to release the case and then return it back to the Federal High Court, where the game of technicalities will begin again, I suppose. But trust the apex court, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, who delivered the original judgment on June 23, was again on that panel, and he was ready. And he came down hard on Hembe and his lawyer. That was just last week. So angry was the Supreme Court that it ordered Hembe to pay yet another damage of 1 million naira to the defendant. Again, that was just last week. Now, one would have expected that, having come to the end of the road, the leadership of the House would not continue to partner Hembe in this obvious perfidy and crime against the institution of democracy. But no. Yesterday, Dorothy Mato was back in the House to present herself again for swearing in. But guess what happened? Speaker Yakubu Dogara bluntly refused. Now, his reason this time around is that while Mato's case was in court and the case was pending, one person from her constituency wrote something against him, Dogara, the speaker, on Facebook. And so this woman must go and fish out that person, bring him to apologize. It is after then he will consider whether and went to swear her in. Yes, you heard me right. And yes, Speaker Dogara is a lawyer and an advocate enrolled in the Supreme Court of Nigeria to practice law, the same Supreme Court that is defined here. Yes, Speaker Dogara is the head of the House of Representatives, which makes laws for you and I and would expect us to obey. Yes, Speaker Dogara swore and took the oath of office, which enjoined him to uphold the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That Constitution makes the Supreme Court the final court of the land, and once that court has spoken, even if they spoke wrongly or said the wrong things, such words are final in the real sense of finality and binding on all authorities. And yes, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and indeed the office of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, are part of the authorities that the Supreme Court has power over. Yes, I will leave the matter here for now and for today. Okay, let's move on. Let's set the tone for our discussions this morning. This morning, we will be having a first-hand feel of the face of the polity in Imo State. Last week, in case you missed the news, Governor Rochas Okorocha renamed the popular Douglas Road in Owerri as Sotomchukwu Gbanusi Road in honor of that 10-year-old boy who died when a stray bullet hit him during the first eviction of traders from the Ekeoko market, that's the popular Owerri market. The demolition of that market by the state government was the culmination of a kind of running battle between the state and indigenes of the state who have been criticizing the state's urban renewal program, which according to them has left the state, particularly Owerri, the state capital, in a sorry state with dilapidated roads, while the flooding problem has become compounded. But the Imo State government fires back, insisting that only a few elites in Owerri who are opposed to the government are manipulating the populace and for nothing but for political reasons. Now, one of the names that have been constantly mentioned by the state governor is Prince Bob Njemanze. He joins me shortly as we look at the developments in Imo State.
I never come out since I gave birth. So the person asked me to come out. When I came out, the person locked my shop, asked me to go to my house, that something is happening there. Before I reached him, I didn't see anybody, but I saw blood. When I asked them, my sister did not tell me anything. He said that they shot my son at Mbise. I asked him, where is he? Let me see him first. Did they shot him dead? He said no. I struggled to go to FMC. Before I reached there, I saw my son. He's dead. He's dead already. One man came here yesterday morning, being Sunday, and asked my husband to go and report to the police station. When my husband reached there, he saw the commissioner of police. The commissioner of police, after discussing with my husband, he ordered my husband that he wanted to go to that FMC to see the cause. When they reached there, he asked my husband to give him that styling, that he is the one that will go in before my husband followed him. That my.
All right, if you're just joining us, just go by there, were scenes recorded. That was on 26th of August, if my memory serves me right. 26th of August. It was a Saturday when the popular Owerri market was demolished. The government had given a 48-hour notice before bulldozers moved in. Not just bulldozers, but backed by soldiers and policemen who ejected all the traders, and then the bulldozers went to work. In the process, a 10-year-old boy was killed, allegedly by stray bullets, and that has set the situation of things in Owerri on the high since then. But I have joining me, like I said in the intro, Prince Bob Njemanze. He is an elder statesman, one of the elder statesmen that took part in the 2014 confab. Actually, one of the elder statesmen from Imo State.
Yeah.
Yes. But in case you don't know him, let me tell you a little bit about him as well. Prince is a scion of the Njemanze ruling house, ruling dynasty in Owerri. He's more like an alligator pepper that must be present in every juju before he can walk. And I guess Rocha Okorocha has made do much more so lately. Each time the governor speaks, I hear your name come up as one of the elites that are creating problem in Imo State. Are you one of the troublers of Owerri or troublers of Rochas?
No, I don't think so.
I thought you two were friends.
Well, we are friendly.
Okay.
Because when we talk about being friends, it gives you room to accommodate the fault of each other. When you have a friendly disposition, there's an extent you will go and you say, listen, I take it no more. So we've been very friendly. We've had that disposition. But you must be careful in friendship. Because there are certain people who have developed the act of receiving by fraudulent pretenses. If you fall victim to that, it's always a very serious, the repercussion is enormous. We acted like we were friends, and I believed him, because there's a position you occupy in this country, most unfortunately, you become believable. But in that position, if you utilize it to tell honest lies.
Are there honest lies?
Yeah, very honest lies, you know, because when a man you ought to believe goes round to smear, to malign, you are in difficulty. You either believe him at your own peril or waste your time doubting him. You see, surprisingly, when things started happening in Owerri, I was dismayed. And there was some kind of conflict in my house. Because my little daughter said to me, Daddy, but you know, would have been better off if you had allowed Hakim stay back as governor. I told her to shut up. She said, no, Daddy. But you wanted Rochas and you didn't know him before. Daddy, can I tell you something? I think it was ego that created your problem with Hakim. I sat back and looked at the little girl. I was deflated.
She was making sense.
I was deflated. And I kept quiet. Then my son said, yes, Daddy, the thing is, as an elder person that Hakim respected before he got into office, when you felt that he disrespected you, and he did that because the office of governor was in conflict with the cultural respect we have for people. And even when he said to you he was sorry, you still did not back up. So now why are you complaining? I looked at myself. You know what crossed my mind? You see, when you see polished people like Donald Duke shouted at his chief of staff, and the wife looked at him, and perhaps he thought it had impressed her. Then when he finished raking, the wife said to him, I don't think I like the way you spoke to that young man. He said, he's my staff. He said, yes, I know, he's your staff. But I don't think the way you spoke to him was right. He went in, came out, and the wife said, we have to go and apologize to him. We have to. He said, me, a governor, going to apologize to the chief of staff that I appointed. The wife said, yes.
And it has to be now.
And it has to be now. He looked up, he looked down, he looked up, he looked down. The wife said, we must go. Now, that's where you have domestic harmony. He followed his wife. When they got to the house of the chief of staff, the wife of the chief of staff ran out, believing that the husband had lost his job. And Donald Duke said, I am very sorry for what happened today. I was in a bad mood. Then the wife said to him, you have restored the esteem of that young man. Because what he did was use his initiative. Even if it was not in line with your thinking,
you could have corrected.
He could have corrected him. You see, a lot of things happen in this country and we overlook them. We sweep them under the carpet. General or Chief Obasanjo, whichever way you like to call him, is a man you can...
Whichever appeals to you.
Whichever one appeals to you. Is a man you cannot ignore in this country. Ojukwu was asked what he considered his greatest achievement in life. He said, in any circumstance to which I consider myself relevant, I cannot be ignored. You cannot ignore Chief or General Olusegun Obasanjo. When the elections were raging in Imo, he visited Eze Njemanze, the Ozuribo 5th of Owerri. And in a recessed discussion, he said to him, I hear there's a lot of opposition from your family against Hakim. Yes, they said, no. Hakim is my boy, is my son, is my nephew, who is opposed to Hakim.
That nephew is
that nephew is me. And then he said to him, I would rather you had Hakim than this other young man that has come up now. He served me as SA. I know him well. I hardly would have escaped the scandal of the Ecumenical Center, which I involved him in. So, you better keep to the devil you know. And you know the way Obasanjo is. He brought this to the public domain.
that private discussion.
That private discussion. I have offered you somebody you say is a thief, and you're objecting to him. You'll end up with an armed robber. You will end up with an armed robber if you're not careful. And you know he's the good, the bad, and the ugly, as far as you're concerned. He's a man you don't have to ignore. Anyway, I kept pace with the governor, and I found out that for anything he wanted to do, which he wanted to import credence, honor, and integrity to, he involved me. In a public discussion, he'll say, I was privy to this. And I became a victim. So much so that everything that was done by his administration, I was being held responsible for. And don't forget, for everyone in that office, there is the morning after. What happens to you the morning after? That is 30th May of whichever date the person is exiting. I have to revert to my people. And on a private note, I had discussion. Take, for example, he woke up without reference to me. I was in his leadership panel, the panel that looked into the Ezes in Imo State. I never knew he was nursing some grievances against my family. We have 5 hereditary, traditional, call them rulers, if you like, in Owerri, with Njemanze as the paramount ruler of Owerri. He's never been in conflict. The governor suddenly became Machiavellian. He goes into a village where there is a hereditary traditional ruler or head, and he appoints sometimes people without pedigree, or people without reference, or people you cannot trace their root. And he says, you are now the traditional head of this community. He did it in 4 of the villages in Owerri. Now, if he's having conflict with Owerri people, he should call this his so-called newly appointed Ezes and say, listen, this is what I want to do in your place. Get your people together so we can get it done. I went to him privately and I said, look, you don't cry more than the bereaved. And you don't go to a man's house and see the son hungry and you give him poisoned food. This thing you've done in Owerri, whether you like it or not, and I'm not sounding arrogant, Njemanze is a microcosm of Owerri. If you're in conflict with an Njemanze, you're in conflict with the entire Owerri people, whether you like it or not. I don't like to make such statements because at a point in time,
It may sound boastful.
it may sound boastful or arrogant, but it's unnecessary. But it's a statement of fact. So if you're engaged in Njemanzes in a conflict in Owerri, you won't survive it. You will not. Then he set up, look, here's a man who never took time to know the history of the place. He didn't. He became too Christian than Christ. Became too religious. And I said to the governor, listen, my great-grandfather was born a Christian. He wasn't a convert. You are a first-generation Christian. So you can't be talking to me about religion. As far back as 1911, my own grandfather had the best school medal in Bonny Government School. So we're not talking of a family that is just becoming literate. He sent out a press statement castigating the Njemanze family as a family that has held...
That I said, Owerri
Owerri
down.
You know?
If nothing comes to them in that family,
It doesn't
then
come to
it
any
will
other
not, it
person.
will not go to any other person.
Meanwhile, he's aspiring to build up a family that is like Njemanze on overnight. He's abandoned the government house in Owerri, built something bigger than Aso Rock with government funds, very scandalous. And you want me at the end of the day to be seen to have acquiesced to that? No, I disengaged.
So that's the cause of the constant mentioning of your name.
Exactly.
Because for anybody who takes time to follow events will know that somehow the two of you started off
Very
friends.
well.
Even when members of your family,
Were
like the your late uncle,
yes,
Eze
Njemanze,
was known to be on the other side.
he was there because, one, he enjoyed the respect of Hakim. He enjoyed the respect of the chairman of the Southeast Traditional Council,
Yeah.
who understood the paramount nature of
of the
stool,
of the Eze Njemanze.
of that stool. And then the caution, the note of caution that Obasanjo gave to him. By and large, that influenced him. But on a personal note, and that's what I was saying that my little daughter did to me, I stood against Hakim. Would you believe I had to go like Donald Duke to go and apologize to Hakim after my this thing with my children? In fact, when I got to his house, I didn't know they were going to open the gate for me. No, I didn't. I came into Abuja. I went to his, with my son. I said, tell them that I'm at the gate. And they rushed, opened the gate, took me to his living room, and I sat there. Then he came and said, Uncle Bob. I said, are you surprised? He said, no, I'm not surprised. I'm shocked. But let's thank God that you're here. And then there was my good friend, Ambassador George Obiozo. He said, you see, that's what I've been expecting those of you whose family saw Christianity before us and our own family, the kind of example I wanted you to set. I didn't want to talk to you about.
Okay, because actually, you know, we've been on this. I need you to come on focus for a very long time.
Yes, for a long time. Yes.
Particularly when the issue of implementation of the 2014 confab report became the most talked about issue,
yes,
and because of the role you played in that confab. Well, it was never possible until now.
Yes.
And for somehow other issues, local
Came up.
issues, pile up, which is why I'm starting with those local issues.
Yes.
So I will still go back to those national issues for which I had been seeking you for a very long time.
Yes.
But let me quickly finish with those local issues.
Yes.
The demolition of the Owerri market. The government gave what will appear to be valid reasons for demolishing that market.
No.
One, the government said the Ekeoku market had become more or less like the headquarters of criminals in Owerri metropolis. It symbolizes idol worshipping. I don't know how. Maybe you are going to be able to explain that. And again, it has made Owerri ugly. And you need to demolish it. Put something more attractive for the purposes of tourism and attracting investors. This will appear to be valid points.
Very valid points.
On the surface.
That's why.
What do you have
that's
against
why
those
I
points?
told you about honest lie.
Honest lies.
Honest lie. Look, Fingerhut, a Zurich-based sweet company, and the name of the owner is Fingerhut himself, developed, and I came with it because I imagine this is the master plan of the twin city of Owerri, designed like Amsterdam. Now, the old city is there. To decongest it, a new city was proposed. Now, we are sentimental about a cuckoo. The governor says he's a deity. You see, that questions how much of Igbo man he is, because Eke, Orie, Afo, Unko, these are market days. And we have the Kuku, Ekenta, and all that, you know. Now, our week spans from Eke, Orie, Afo, Unko, Eke, Orie, Afo, Unko. That makes 1 week. Because you have the Kuku and the Kenta coming over to the other side. Now, a Kuku Owerri, which you might also call Ogumabiri, was a market established at a focal point to serve the villages of Owerri. But in those days, not like the 6-year-old girl that was brought out in the kindergarten, as I tell a story, say in those days. And they were asking her,
Which days?
Which days? Now, in those days, toll, as it was collected for Bob Njemanze, which is the upkeep of the palace. Okay. Then times developed, there was no need for all of that. But again, the market started getting congested. And Hakim was able to arrest the situation by his clean and green program. I mean, I must give credit to one to whom credit is due. Now, all it requires is for the government that took over from him, when they talk about having political mileage or whatever, to sustain that program. But let me tell you the deceit. The present governor moved in and opened up access roads, link roads. First link road, second link road, third link road, fourth link road, and we were elected. Even if the road development was poor, but that was something, I mean, that gave a breather to the town, and we were overwhelmed, all of us. But you know something? He opened up those roads to enable him acquire virtually every land
that was on the other side.
That was on the other side. Because there you have a government house, you have judges' quarters, you have quarters for permanent secretaries and all that. Now, he put his son-in-law as commissioner for land, and they quietly, surreptitiously, and clandestinely started taking away all the land and manipulating them.
Now, that land not owned originally either by people or what?
Well, you know the land use decree.
Yeah,
they use it to
acquire overriding public interest.
But none was acquired overriding public interest. Their own personal interest became the overriding public interest. And I would be stupid if this is being done under my nose, and I'm aware of it, and I keep quiet. I spoke to him a number of times. I mean, like you said, like friends. But I never knew that while I was talking to him, he had something different at the back of his mind. And you know, a man who has not just a passion for acquisition, but an obsession for it, is a very difficult thing to bring reason to bear. More so when you succeed in cowing down perhaps even their domestics, not to talk of these leeches around that are latching for their own personal benefit. They can't talk to you. I was a very uncomfortable person in our relationship. I was somebody he desired to see and somebody he hated
To lose.
to lose. At the same time, he never fully appreciated the things I was telling him. If not, he wouldn't have the problems he's having today. And he got up, even my own people were now accusing me as being party to what he was doing. Because in friendship, you owe something to your friend.
Yeah. Something called loyalty.
Something called loyalty.
Yeah.
And you don't compromise it at all. So I would go to him and I speak to him. Now he'll say he discussed with me. No, that's a very fluid statement. If you want to make reference to what we discussed, please tell the public what it is. Don't criminalize me. Don't blackmail me. I couldn't have told you to remove a cuckoo over a market. And it became the general talk that I was party to.
The demolition
removal,
of
the demolition of a cuckoo over a market. I was just lucky I could have been lynched. So it was a very unfair thing to do to somebody you have regard for. And unfortunately, you see, this impunity thing we're talking about, the people went to court and got an order of court that has not been a valid order of court. Because back in the village, I would say so, back in Owerri, let me now refer to Owerri as a village, you give the impression that you are a god, and so you can do anything and get away with it. Now, that's an unfortunate thing for this country. If this country is incapable, and how are they going to be capable of doing that when those in the National Assembly are the first that are breaking the laws?
I just gave you the example of the Speaker.
How are they? So you can see the difficulty.
A Supreme Court judge order made
exactly.
twice.
So why wouldn't a governor, who is God in his own state, do whatever he likes? They talk about the 10-year-old boy. It wasn't only the 10-year-old boy that died. And if I were to tell him, the worst thing he would have done to himself is name Douglas Road, Somtochukwu, or name Ekuku Somtochukwu, because he'll be perpetuating the heinous crime of the death of that boy, something that we should be setting behind, something we should be making. Look, my governor just celebrated his 55th birthday.
With 55 cakes.
55 cakes. Right?
Unprecedented.
And then here is a 10-year-old boy, nipped in the bud. Wouldn't he have suspended birthday for that? All the local governments were taxed. Cow, goat, and these are people whose salaries have not been paid. He's in conflict with the judges because, according to him, he wants to compromise them. And thank God in Imo State, we have judges that, look, our judges have not been paid their salaries for 11 months.
You don't mean it.
For 11 months.
And they dispense justice.
And they are supposed to dispense justice. As they were going on vacation, they were asked to come and collect a percentage of their salary, percentage of 4 months of their salary. I would tell, because my not even immediate younger brother, my brother, how many after me, was the immediate past chief judge of the state. And that's why the governor claims that the Njemanze family produced all the judges, all the lawyers, all the doctors, because he had a conflict with Professor Philip Njemanze. The first bill he signed into law was abortion bill. And Professor Njemanze engaged him on it and said, you can't do this in Imo State. Well, Professor Njemanze is an obsessed Catholic. I may not have had any this thing about whether he signed a bill about abortion into law or not, because I would have said it's your own privilege and what to do. But not in a Catholic setting. he took it up to the papacy. And they called the archbishop, who was unaware initially that this is a thing. So the archbishop now engaged the governor. That's how that particular this thing was rescinded. The governor had it against him. All the lands, what you call government reserved area, devolved on the Njemanze family. Because, look, it was my forefather that received the colonial master in 1884. Even before 1902, when it was made official that the colonial masters have come. H.M. Douglas. And if you go to Owerri, look, from Ikenebu layout, you get to Ekonu to Okorie to Enacho to Njemanze. Then after Njemanze, you get Douglas, because it was Njemanze that received Douglas. And after that, we didn't change names again. That's how come we have the 5th Ozuribo, but the 12th descent. In terms of rulership, is the 12th. But from when we became Njemanze and stuck onto that name, is the 5th Ozuribo. So it is not a today thing. It's not a today thing. Like when we had our family meeting, I said, listen, you have to be a little bit careful, because when we talk about influence and importance and rulership, you ask yourself, how did these things all come about? Njemanze was a slave dealer. He had a waterfront in Port Harcourt. He's still there. He dealt with Jaja of Opobo, Koko, the man from Warri. And for the first time, the last Oba of Benin left Benin at the installation of Ozuribo V, because according to him, he was one of those that they hounded them together to Calabar prison, from where Jaja of Opobo was moved, and he never came back. Funny enough, when he came, we took him to the new abode of Ozuribo V. He refused to come out there and opted to be taken to Ibarin Njemanze.
The old one.
The old one, which was at this point in time more like dilapidated, because the Ozuribo V abandoned it. But the man insisted, and we had to take him there. And he said, don't forget, I served as an administrative officer over here.
And I know all these
So I know all these things. So you can't, I wasn't coming here
to see your new palace.
To see your new palace. I wasn't. Meanwhile, that new palace has been burned down, which is what the governor said he wanted to rebuild. And we didn't want to fall victim to what happened between him and Charlie Boy, because Charlie Boy's grouse against him, Charlie Boy wanted a befitting living for his father, not a befitting burial. When his father was moved to the Federal Medical Center and he was sick, the first person that rushed in there was the governor, and he made all sorts of high-floating promises. I'm making arrangements, private jet, I'll fly him overseas and all that. And that was the last of it. Then when the man now died, he shows up to make a political mileage.
For a state burial.
For a state burial. A man who was the first chief judge of Imo State, our pride at the Supreme Court. And all you want to, that's why Charlie Boy snatched the microphone from him. And they released a state a press statement that it was because Charlie Boy had been bought over by PDP and all that and all that. And I looked at them and I said, that is stupid. Because I mean, Benga, you know, I'm not in any political divide. For me, I see PDP as a blind giant groping in the dark. I see APC as a political party, like Dolly Parton would say, with a coat of many colors. So, and then if you look at the National Assembly, what we have is APDPC. APDPC. That is PDP.
That's a coalition.
Yes.
Rainbow coalition.
Rainbow coalition. PDP clothed in AC.
AC and AMPP.
Color. So you choose which one you want at any material point in time. If it's APC or PDP
or PDC.
or PDC, you get all of them there. there's no ideology. What we have there is just people pursuing their own personal interest. I watched your program the other day with Professor Chidi Odinkalo.
That was yesterday.
Was it yesterday?
Yes.
Good. Over the NGO
Bill.
thing, I pitied him. Because you see, you don't know which way to go. Like my governor has made good, like a Robin Hood, from NGO. So those who are fighting to regulate it are looking at such sharp, smart people who would advertise for 54 first ladies to bring 4 less privileged children for scholarship and run it on CNN. And you know how the developed world is. They'll believe such a man
And put their money in
and put their money there. So it's a subtle, fraudulent way of extorting money without, I mean, it's like going to church and donating your money. Nobody quarrels with you. I was telling the Archbishop, I said, I came to your church, they collected offering. When it got time to Holy Communion, I'm an Anglican, by circumstance of birth. You now say Holy Communion is meant for only Catholics. Not only that, who are in a state of grace. You see? So it was, for me, it was a little bit, it was now, they didn't do it when they were collecting the money. But when it got to time, whether it's food or whatever, Holy Communion, should have been given to all of us.
Shall we leave away the issues alone? Let's talk a little bit about national issues now, because
please.
I looked at the time is far gone.
Okay.
But I just try to resist the temptation of stopping you, because I was also getting a lot of education from what you were saying, and a lot of information as well. Let's talk about national issues now.
Yes.
First, let's start with the issue of restructuring and the belief out there that the 2014 CONFA, of which you were an active member, already set a template. So we didn't need to grope in the dark if we are serious about finding the way forward on this issue.
Well, you know, I'm very touchy about that particular issue, because what we went through in that confab, we had so much conflict, and we also had so much together to work out on that. The best thing that would have happened to this administration is to put their pride, whatever it is, and it's not because I was a member of that confab, aside, and pick up that confab, push it to the National Assembly, and they look at it. I mean, most decisions that were taken there were unanimous. They were unanimous. We agreed on them. Look, 51 against 49, that's all democracy is all about. But you see, this is a country where everyone feels cheated. Everyone feels cheated. So you cannot satisfy everyone. But in any area that you are agreed and the majority has carried the day, you play along with it. There were a few things in that National Assembly that I personally didn't quite accommodate. Now, the issue of state police. You can't have state police with these madmen, and marauders as governors. But you can create a situation, and I held by that, where the commissioners of police and their deputy must not be indigenes of the state, but where the officers in charge of B-Ops and these things should be local, because they understand.
B-Ops will mean operations.
Yes, operations and all that. You send people from the area to head, they are assistant commissioners, to head the B-Ops, but never have an indigene. Now, that was what created the problem we had in Owerri over the a cuckoo thing. So I still have to touch back on it. Because the last commissioner of police, Taiwo Lakano, there was nothing the governor did not do to get him to bring out his policemen, to back him up
In the demolition.
in the demolition. And he said, there is a valid court order. But the one that was posted to take over from him happened to be a local. A local. There is that psychological thing, there's that influence. More so, until we correct the issue of security vote. Because when we had Kamsalem or Riedet, and maybe had one deputy commissioner of police and all that, the commissioners of police, as they were then, were in charge of their own security votes. This thing took a turn when the military took over and became governors. And in their security meetings, you cannot imagine a commissioner of police being the chief security officer. Now, what happens now is, when a commissioner of police falters, he's reported to the IG by the governor, who is, quote and unquote, chief security officer. But when he's doing it well, that is when he's playing it his way, then the IG is out of it. This has to be reversed. I never gave in to the state police thing. This is the best way we would have handled that, because now, what happened to the new commissioner of police? This man comes around, buys vehicles, offer them land, give money. Oh, he's a nice man, nice governor. Please send me your people. I have to move this over the people today. Hoping that this issue will not come up to the headquarters, he sent in his men. Same thing with the brigade commander. Hoping that it will not, because, I mean, who is a governor to call out the army? The much he would have done is the local thing. He has set up what he calls Imo Security Network with a retired corporal in the police as a flag officer. He flies flag when he's driving his car and into the police command. Meanwhile, those who knew him there, I mean, it's a thing of ridicule. And
a former corporal.
Corporal, a dispatch rider. He flies flag into the police command. And the commissioner of police is handicapped, because this is somebody the governor himself has put there. So until some of these things are put right, you know, I mean, I don't know where we're heading to.
In the light of, just quick answer to this one.
Yes.
What do you think, if the executive is not giving the report of the confab to the National Assembly, the National Assembly cannot claim not to have it, because the former president submitted that report to the National Assembly.
Yes, yes.
So the National Assembly should not tell us about any institutional loss of memory here. They can go back to their own archive and dig it up and work with it.
Well, that's what I call the honest lie.
Okay.
The National Assembly, if they were there for you and me, if they were not thinking of their benefits and who it will hurt, the other interest, I don't see the sacrifice in it, in falling back on that confab report and implementing it. All these Kanu issue, Arewa issue, would have been put to rest. When we're talking about restructuring, the people are not talking about balkanizing this country. No, the unity of this country remains. It's been tried, it's been tested, and we now know where we are. But why are we still, look, what are we talking about? Ironsi was killed because of the unitary system. So why are we now clinging on so much to the, what is the benefit of it?
Prince, I have to stop you, because if I leave you, we can go on and on and on for the next 2 hours, and we will always find something to talk about. So let's leave it here until maybe next time when I have the opportunity of knowing you are in town again and you are free to honor our invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Prince Bob Njemanze is, well, an elder statesman, the scion of the Njemanze ruling dynasty of Owerri He was one of the active participants at the 2014 confab. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time.
Thank you.
That's Focus Nigeria today. Thank you for investing your time with us. We'll be back same time tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of the day.